Hi, this is Shannon from No Shelf Control. Thanks for joining me again on the channel tonight. I have a long list of March releases that I want to share with you. I previously did the first 11 and thought that I was going to stop at 22, but I have since discovered a couple of other extras that I wanted to add on to the list. So I think that I actually have 15 books for the second half of March that I want to talk about. So I think we should get started. The first one I want to talk about is Hang the Moon by Jeanette Wells. She is one of my favorite authors. She wrote The Glass Castle, which is a memoir of her life. I actually read that in conjunction with my son, who read it for school. But I have met her. I met her at an author signing event, and she is just a darling human being. When you read her book and understand her life story, it is amazing that she has turned out as well as she has. But she is an incredible woman, and I really am excited that she has a new book. So this is called Hang the Moon. It is blurbed by Adriana Trigiani, and it says, "Glorious. Jeanette Wells writes with veracity, verve, and humor. The prose is elegant and so close to the bone you feel Sally's heartbeat." And that just feels like a Jeanette Wells book to me. So she is publishing this book on March the 28th, so at the end of the month. You may not be able to get your hands on it quite yet. It is published by Scribner, and it's 368 pages. And here is the synopsis. Sally Kincaid is the daughter of the biggest man in a small town, the charismatic Duke Kincaid. Born at the turn of the 20th century into a life of comfort and privilege, Sally remembers little about her mother, who died in a violent argument with Duke. By the time she's just 8 years old, the Duke has remarried and has a son, Eddie. While Sally is her father's daughter, sharp-witted and resourceful, Eddie is his mother's son, timid and cerebral. When Sally tries to teach young Eddie to be more like their father, her daredevil coaching leads to an accident, and Sally is cast out. 9 years later, she returns, determined to reclaim her place in the family. That's a lot more complicated than Sally expected, and she enters a world of conflict and lawlessness. Sally confronts the secrets and scandals that hide in the shadows of the big house, navigates the factions in the family and town, and finally comes into her own as a bold, sometimes reckless bootlegger. You will fall in love with Sally Kincaid, a feisty and fearless, terrified and damaged young woman who refuses to be corralled. I love the characters that Jeanette Wells creates, and so I'm really excited about Sally Kincaid and cannot wait to read this book. So I already have it pre-ordered, and it's I'm also on the wait list at my library, so we'll see which one comes first, but excited about this book. I hope you will check it out. Jeanette Wells deserves every honor that she has received, in my opinion. So the next book that I have on my list is called Her Lost Words, and it is a novel of Mary Wollstonecraft and Mary Shelley. So if you know Mary Shelley, she wrote Frankenstein. Mary Wollstonecraft is her mother. This book is going to come out on March the 28th, again at the end of the month. This is by Berkeley Books, and it's 448 pages, and I forgot to give credit to the author. The book is written by Stephanie Marie Thornton. All right, so let's read about this book. Her Lost Words. From a vindication of the rights of women to Frankenstein, a tale of two literary legends, a mother and daughter, discovering each other and finding themselves along the way. From USA Today best-selling author Stephanie Marie Thornton, 1792. As a child, Mary Wollstonecraft longed to disappear during her father's violent rages. Instead, she transforms herself into the radical author of the landmark volume, A Vindication of the Rights of a Woman, in which she dares to propose that women are equal to men. From conservative England to the blood-drenched streets of revolutionary France, Mary refuses to bow to society's conventions and instead supports herself with her pen until an illicit love affair challenges her every belief about romance and marriage. When she gives birth to a daughter and is stricken with childbed fever, Mary feels it will be her many critics who recount her life's extraordinary odyssey. 1818. The daughter of infamous political philosopher Mary Wollstonecraft, passionate Mary Shelley learned to read by tracing the letters of her mother's tombstone. As a young woman, she desperately misses her mother's guidance, especially following her scandalous elopement with dashing poet Percy Bysshe Shelley. Mary struggles to balance an ever-complicated marriage with motherhood while nursing twin hopes that she might write something of her own one day and also discover the truth of her mother's unconventional life. Mary's journey will unlock her mother's secrets, all while leading to her own destiny as the groundbreaking author of Frankenstein, a riveting and inspiring novel about a firebrand feminist, her visionary daughter, and the many ways their words transformed our world. So a mother-daughter pair, both writers, one very political in nature, and I'm excited about that. I have never actually read or even heard of A Vindication of the Rights of Woman. I knew that Mary Wollstonecraft was a feminist, political activist, but I did not know what she had written or what it was called. Now, Mary Shelley I am familiar with, as you probably are as well. So very interested to see what the not relationship, because Mary Wollstonecraft died in childbirth, but how one's life influences the other and how these two women's lives really influence the world. So looking forward to that one. The next one is called Now You See Us by Bali Kaur Jaswal, author of the erotic stories for Punjabi widows. Now, I have heard of that book and really want to read it, but I haven't gotten my hands on it yet. So this is Now You See Us, the next book after Erotic Stories for Punjabi Women. This one is coming out very soon on March 7th, 2023 by William Morrow and Company, and it is 320 pages. And here's what we know about this one. The wildly entertaining, sharply observed story of three women who work in the homes of Singapore's elite and band together to solve a murder mystery involving one of their own. The wealthy island nation of Singapore seems like an oasis of luxury and order, but it owes everything to the immigrant women no one sees. Corazon, Donita, and Angel are Filipina domestic workers, part of the wave of women sent to Singapore to be cleaners, maids, and caregivers in its decadent homes. A veteran domestic worker, Corazon, had retired back to the Philippines for good, but she has returned to Singapore under mysterious circumstances. Now she's keeping a secret from her wealthy employer, who is planning an extravagant wedding for her socialite daughter. Barely out of her teens, this is Donita's first time in Singapore, and she's had the bad luck to be hired by the notoriously fussy Mrs. Fan. Brazen and exuberant, Donita's thrown herself into a love affair with an Indian construction worker and started a lively social media account that says more than it should. Working as an in-home caregiver for an elderly employer, Angel is feeling blue after a recent breakup with the woman she loves. She's alarmed when her employer's son suddenly brings in a new Filipina nurse who may be a valuable ally or who may be meant to replace her. Then an explosive news story shatters Singapore's famous tranquility and sends a chill down the spine of every domestic worker. Flordeliza Martinez, a Filipina maid, has been arrested for murdering her female employer. The three women don't know the accused well, but she could be any of them. Every worker knows stories of women who were scapegoated or even executed for crimes they didn't commit. Shocked into action, Donita, Corazon, and Angel will use their considerable moxie and insight to piece together the mystery of what really happened on the day Flordeliza's employer was murdered. After all, no one knows the secrets of Singapore's elite like the women who work in their homes. So that one sounds really exciting to me. It reminds me a little bit of The Help, except set in Singapore. Sort of these feisty women with stories of their own who are sort of flying under the radar in the families that they help, but have an exciting story to tell. So there's also a bit of a mystery here in this one that I'm not sure was present in The Help, but I'm definitely down for that. So I hope you will check out the latest book from Bali Kaur Jaswal called Now You See Us. So the next book that I want to talk about is blurbed by Janet Ivanovich, and she says, the delicious combination of Clue and the Great British Bake Off kept me turning pages all night. Clue and the Great British Bake Off, okay. This one is called The Golden Spoon by Jessa Maxwell. It is going to be published very soon on March the 7th, 2023 by Atria Books, and it is 288 pages. Here's what we know about The Golden Spoon. A killer is on the loose when someone turns up dead on the set of a hit TV baking competition in this darkly beguiling debut mystery that is perfect for fans of Lucy Foley, Nita Prose, and Anthony Horowitz. Soon to be a limited series on Hulu, production for the 10th season of Bake Week is ready to begin at the Gothic estate of host and celebrity chef Betsy Martin, and everything seems perfect. The tent is up, the top-tier ingredients are aligned, and the crew has their cameras at the ready. The 6 contestants work to prove their culinary talents over the course of 5 days, while Betsy is less than thrilled to share the spotlight with a new co-host, the brash and unpredictable Archie Morris. But as the baking competition commences, things begin to go awry. At first, it's merely sabotage, sugar replaced with salt, a burner turned to high. But when a body is discovered, everyone is suspect. A deliciously suspenseful thriller for murder mystery buffs and avid bakers alike. The Golden Spoon will keep you guessing until the very last page. Now, I love that. I love to be kept guessing till the very last page. I do not like it when I guess what's going on in a mystery before the end. Now, close to the end, I'm okay. But if I know from the beginning what's going to happen in a mystery, I just don't enjoy that at all. So I hope that the synopsis is right and I'm kept guessing until the very end. I'm not a big cook or baker, but I did love Top Chef for years, and do not watch the Great British Bake Off, but I'm still very interested in this story and the mystery that goes along with it. The next one I have is called Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice, and it is blurbed as a compulsively readable story with intrigue, humor, and above all else, heart. And that is blurbed by Lori Elizabeth Flynn, the author of The Girls Are Also Nice here. So that is Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers by Jessie Q. Sutanto. That's coming out March 14th, 2023 by Berkeley Books, and it's 352 pages. Here's what the synopsis says about this one. A lonely shopkeeper takes it upon herself to solve a murder in the most peculiar way in this captivating mystery by Jessie Q. Sutanto, best-selling author of Dial A for Aunties. Vera Wong is a lonely little old lady, lady of a certain age, who lives above her forgotten tea shop in the middle of San Francisco's Chinatown. Despite living alone, Vera is not needy. Oh no. She likes nothing more than sipping on a good cup of oolong and doing some healthy detective work on the internet about what her Gen Z son is up to. Then one morning, Vera trudges downstairs to find a curious thing. A dead man in the middle of her tea shop. In his outstretched hand, a flash drive. Vera doesn't know what comes over her, but after calling the cops like any good citizen would, she sort of swipes the flash drive from the body and tucks it safely into the pocket of her apron. Why? Because Vera is sure she would do a better job than the police possibly could, because nobody sniffs out a wrongdoing quite like a suspicious Chinese mother with time on her hands. Vera knows the killer will be back for the flash drive. All she has to do is watch the increasing number of customers at her shop and figure out which one of them is the killer. What Vera does not expect is to form friendships with her customers and start to care for each and every one of them. As a protective mother hen, will she end up having to give one of her newfound chicks to the police? I love that. The interesting part is, if you remember, I talked about the horror book, the one about the vampires that I absolutely hated, and I thought it was going to be a, kicky little book about older women who decided to try to solve a crime. This sounds like it might actually be what I was expecting for that book, and no horror involved. So I'm excited to find out about Vera and her being a lady of a certain age, and see if she can solve this murder, and then also see what the relationships are like between her and all of her customers. It sounds very charming, and I'm excited about that. The next one I have is called Stash, My Life in Hiding by Laura Cathcart Robbins. And it is blurbed as an irresistibly delicious story that will sit in your bones and write over your memory like it happened to you. And that blurb is from Holly Whitaker, the best-selling author of Quit Like a Woman. So this is Stash, My Life in Hiding. It is coming out March 7th by Atria Books, and it is 288 pages. here we go. A propulsive and vivid memoir in the vein of Drinking, a Love Story, and Somebody's Daughter, about the journey to sobriety and self-love amidst addiction, privilege, racism, and self-sabotage from the host of the popular podcast, The Only One in the Room. After years of hiding her addiction from everyone, from stockpiling pills in her Louboutins to elaborately scheduling withdrawals between PTA meetings, baby showers, and tennis matches, Laura Cathcart Robbins settles into a complicated purgatory. She learns the hard way that privilege doesn't protect you from pain. Facing divorce, the possibility of a grueling custody battle, and internalized racism, Robbins wonders just how much more she can take. Now, with courage and candid openness, she reveals how she managed to begin the long journey towards sobriety and unexpectedly finding new love. Robbins harrowingly illustrates taking down the wall she built around herself brick by brick and what it means to be Black in a startlingly white world. With its raw, finely crafted, and engaging prose, Stash is the story of just how badly the facade she created had to shatter before Laura could reconnect to her true self. Well, I really enjoy a memoir. Love memoirs about addiction and bottoming out. I guess that's the voyeur part of me, but having some history of addiction in my family and in my life, this is just really a curious opportunity for me. So it's referred to as a propulsive and vivid memoir. I love memoirs, and that is the very best kind. So we shall see. The next one on my list is called The Other Family Doctor. A veterinarian explores what animals can teach us about love, life, and mortality. And that one is coming out March 14th, 2023 by Anchor Books, and it's 304 pages. Here's what the synopsis has to say about this one. Calling All Animal Lovers, a heartwarming memoir about one woman's career as a vet and the unique role pets play in our lives. Filled with compassion and wisdom, Karen Fine is a healer whose own wounds have deepened her gifts for bringing animals and their people comfort and peace. Cy Montgomery, the New York Times bestselling author of The Soul of an Octopus and How to Be a Good Creature. A tribute to our furry, feathery, scaly, and wet family members, all creatures great and small meets being mortal in this compelling memoir of one woman's dream to become a veterinarian. Karen Fine always knew that she wanted to be a vet and wasn't going to let anything stop her. Not her allergy to cats, not the fact that in the 80s, veterinary medicine was still mostly male profession. Inspired by her grandfather, a compassionate doctor who paid house calls to all his human patients, Dr. Fine persevered and brought her UPA's principles into her own practice, which emphasizes the need to understand her patients' stories to provide the best possible care. And in The Other Family Doctor, Dr. Fine shares all these touching, joyful, heartbreaking, and life-affirming tales that make up her career as a vet. There's the feral cat who becomes a creature out of a fable when he puts his trust in a young vet to heal his injured paw. The pot-bellied pig who grows too big to fit in the car but remains a cherished pet of the family. The surprising colony of perfectly behaved ferrets. The beloved aging pet who gives her people the gift of accompanying them on one final vacation. The dog who saves his owner's life in a most unexpected way. Woven into Dr. Fine's story are, of course, also the stories of her own pets, the birds, cats, and dogs who have taught her the most valuable lessons, how caring for the animals in our lives can teach us to better care for ourselves, especially when life seems precarious. And I did not say so at the beginning, but you heard in the synopsis, this book is by Karen Fine. She is a doctor of veterinary medicine. I'm the owner of 2 cats, or they're the owner of me, probably more likely. I'm definitely an animal lover and really interested in hearing more about this book. I have not read All Creatures Great and Small, but as you've heard me say before, I did love Being Mortal by Atul Gawande. And if this has any comparison to that book, I will love it. So looking forward to that. I know a lot of you are animal lovers, and so I hope this is right up your alley. The next book I have on my list also has animals in it, a little different, but it also has animals in the title. This one is called The Last Beekeeper by Julie Carrick Dalton, and it is a novel. and it is going to be published March 7th by Forge Books, and it's 384 pages. Here's what we know about The Last Beekeeper. Julie Carrick Dalton's The Last Beekeeper is a celebration of found family, an exploration of truth versus power, and the triumph of hope in the face of despair. Fans of Delia Owens will swoon to find their new favorite author, and that's a quote from Hank Philippi Ryan. It's been more than a decade since the world has come undone, and Sasha Severn has returned to her child home with one goal in mind: find the mythic research her father, the infamous Last Beekeeper, hid before he was incarcerated. There, Sasha is confronted with a group of squatters who have claimed the quiet, idyllic farm as their own. While she initially feels threatened, the group soon becomes her newfound family, offering what she hasn't felt since her father was imprisoned: security and hope. Maybe it's time to forget the family secrets buried on the farm and focus on her future. But just as she settles into her new life, Sasha witnesses the impossible. She sees a honeybee, presumed extinct. People who claim to see bees are ridiculed and silenced for reasons Sasha doesn't understand, but she can't shake the feeling that the impossible bee is connected to her father's missing research. Fighting to uncover the truth could shatter Sasha's fragile security and threaten the lives of her newfound family, or it could save them all. Julie Carrick Dalton's The Last Beekeeper is a celebration of found family, an exploration of truth versus power, and the triumph of hope in the face of despair. It is a meditation on forgiveness and redemption, and a reminder to cherish the beauty that still exists in this fragile world. So, a post-apocalyptic book about a woman who is searching for her father's research on bees and comes into a community that lives where she used to live. Now, if you look at the cover of the book, these flowers and the honeycomb in the background, I never would have guessed this was post-apocalyptic. But I love that. I think that's very interesting. And I know how important bees are to our society and to nature. So I'm really interested that she's chosen bees as the animal to follow here and see what she has to say about The Last Beekeeper. So we will be looking forward to that one. The next one also has The Last in the title. This is a different Last book. This is The Last Carolina Girl by Megan Church. And as a former Carolina girl for 11 years myself, the title in and of itself got my attention. I also love this picture of the young woman laying in the grass underneath the trees. It has a Dorothy feel to me for whatever reason, but really loved the cover. This one is coming out at the end of the month, March 28th, 23. It is being published by Source Books, and it's 304 pages. This is being described as a book club novel, so we will see. A searing book club novel for fans of Where the Crawdads Sing and The Girls in the Stilt House, following one girl fighting for her family, her body, and her right to create a future all her own. Some folks will do anything to control the wild spirit of a Carolina girl. For 14-year-old Leah Payne, life in her beloved coastal Carolina town is as simple as it is free. Devoted to her lumberjack father and running through the wilds where the forest meets the shore, Leah's country life is as natural as the loblolly pines that rise to greet the southern sky. When an accident takes her father's life, Leah is wrenched from her small community and cast into a family of strangers with a terrible secret. Separated from her only home, Leah is kept apart from the family and forced to act as a helpmate for the well-to-do household. When a moment of violence and prejudice thrusts Leah into the center of the state's shameful darkness, she must fight for her own future against a world that doesn't always value the wild spirit of a Carolina girl. Set in 1935 against the very real backdrop of a recently formed state eugenics board, The Last Carolina Girl is a powerful and heart-wrenching story of fierce strength, forgotten history, autonomy, and the places and people we ultimately call home. So I can see why they mentioned that this is similar to Where the Crawdads Sing. I definitely see some parallels there. But I will be definitely going out to get this one and find out more about Leah Payne and her life as the Last Carolina Girl. Very intrigued by the eugenics board that has been recently formed in the state of North Carolina. And actually, it doesn't say North or South Carolina. So I'm not sure which one it is. I assumed North, but I could be wrong. So yeah, interested about the eugenics board and what race and race relations have to do with this story. All right, the next one. This next one is called Loyalty, and it is by Lisa Scottoline. And it is blurbed by Kristen Hanna, who I know is a favorite of some of you. It's blurbed as powerful, poignant, and unputdownable. It is also coming out at the end of the month, March 28th, 23, by G.P. Putnam Sons, and it is 480 pages. So this is a big one. Here's what we know about Loyalty. Franco Fioravanti is a handsome lemon grower who has toiled for years on the estate of boss Baron Zito. Franco dreams of owning his own lemon grove, but the rigid class system of Sicily thwarts his ambitions. Determined to secure a prosperous future, Franco will do anything to prove his loyalty to the Baron. But when Baron Zito asks him to arrange the kidnapping of a little boy, Franco crosses the point of no return, setting in motion the making of the world's first mafia family. Gaetano Catalano is an idealistic young lawyer whose devotion for justice is a calling. Gaetano is a member of the Beati Paoli, a real-life secret society of aristocrats who investigate crime since corruption riddles Palermo. Gaetano and the Beati Paoli, Gaetano and the Beati Paoli set out to find the boy and bring him home. But for Gaetano, the mission turns to obsession. He risks everything to right the wrong and bring justice to his beloved city. The kidnapped boy, Dante, grows up in a madhouse without even knowing his last name. He doubts his own sanity until he meets Lucia, a girl with a tragic past of her own. They fall in love, then set out to find Dante's kidnapper and learn his true identity. And I think the cover of this book just speaks mafia to me. I don't know why, but that was immediately the take that I had on the picture. Set in Palermo, definitely a bit of a driving sort of mysterious thriller kind of book, but also seems to be focused on relationships and the characters that are being drawn here as well. So looking forward to that one. I have just a few more. I know I went out of control for the month of March, but there were so many good books. All right, this next one is Strangers in the Night, a novel of Frank Sinatra and Ava Gardner by Heather Webb. How can you resist a book about Frank Sinatra and Ava Gardner in novel form? All right, so this one is by HarperCollins, and it is 432 pages. Here's what I know. In the tumultuous romance that scandalized the world, Frank Sinatra and Ava Gardner fought, loved, and lived life to the hilt. Now their unbridled story is brought vividly to life by Heather Webb, the best-selling author of Meet Me in Monaco and The Next Ship Home. In the golden age of Hollywood, two of the brightest stars would define and defy an era. She was the small-town Southern beauty transformed into a Hollywood love goddess. He was the legendary crooner whose voice transfixed the world. They were Ava Gardner and Frank Sinatra. Separately, they were irresistible. Together, they were an explosive combination. Ava's star is rising just as Frank's career and public image as a family man is taking a hit. Gone are the days of the screaming Bobby Soxers and chart-topping hits. Ava, however, finds herself gracing the front page of every tabloid in America. Jealousy and cheating abound, and when the two succumb to their temperaments and their vices, their happiness is threatened at every turn. As the pair ride the roller coaster of success and failure, passion and anger, they both wonder if the next turn will be the end of their careers, and most devastating of all, the end of all they've shared. A captivating novel with a star-studded cast spanning continents and decades, Strangers in the Night brings to life the most riveting love story of the 20th century. Ooh, I'm so excited about this one. I don't know why. I love this time period, glamorous Hollywood, Frank Sinatra and Ava Gardner. It's too much. So, and it's a novel. I would read it if it was nonfiction, but I love fiction that is based on real life. So this is exciting for me. Check this one out. I can't wait. I hope you can't either. just a couple more here. So the next one is called The Farewell Tour, a novel by Stephanie Clifford. And I just love this jacket on the cover. I want a jacket just like this. So it's suede. It's like a teal turquoise suede with red flowers and fringe. I don't know where I would wear it, but I would love to have a jacket like that. So The Farewell Tour, the picture gives me a sense for what we might be getting into, but we'll see. It's coming out on March 7th by Harper, and it's 352 pages. From the author of the New York Times bestseller Everybody Rise, a rich and riveting novel with the exquisite historical detail and evocative settings of the Cold Millions and Great Circle that tells the story of one unforgettable woman's rise in country and Western music. That's what I was hoping it was going to be about. In 1980, it's 1980, and Lillian Waters is hitting the road for the very last time. Jaded from her years in the music business, perpetually hungover, and diagnosed with career-ending vocal problems, Lillian cobbles together a nationwide farewell tour featuring some old hands from her early days playing honky-tonk bars in Washington State and Nashville, plus a few new ones. She yearns to feel the rush of making live music one more time and bask in the glow of a packed house before she makes the last and most important stop on the tour, the farm she left behind at the age of 10, and the sister she is finally ready to confront about an agonizing betrayal in their childhood. As the novel crisscrosses eras, moving between Lillian's youth, the Depression, the Second World War, the rise of Nashville, and her middle-aged life in 1980, we see her striving to build a career in the male-dominated world of country music, including the hard choices she makes as she tries to redefine music, love, aging, and womanhood on her own terms. Nearing her final tour stop, Lil is forced to confront those choices and how they shaped her life. Would a different version of herself have found the happiness and success that has eluded her? When she reaches her Washington hometown for her very last show, though, she'll undergo a reckoning with the past that forces her to reconsider her entire life story. Exploring one unforgettable woman's creativity, ambition, and sacrifices in a world and an art form made for men, The Farewell Tour asks us to consider how much of our past we can ever leave behind. So is it me, or are we getting more books about middle-aged women? I feel like over the past couple of videos, I've talked about at least 5 books that talk about either middle-aged women or older women. And I just felt like there was a dearth in titles for women, my age and older for the longest time. So I am really excited about that. I know that this starts out when Lillian is younger, but it definitely says that it talks about her middle-aged life in the 1980s. So excited to hear about that. Country music fan. I love a lot of music, but do love country music. And so this is right in the sweet spot for me. All right, let's keep going. The next one is called The Dig by Ann Burt. This one is coming out March 7th, 2023 by Counterpoint LLC, and I am not sure how many pages it is. It does not tell me this time, so we will be surprised. The Dig by Ann Burt. When Sarajevo-born siblings Antonia and Paul were adopted by a wealthy Midwestern family in the 1990s, a series of events with deadly consequences was set in motion. Now, with her career on the line and her idealistic brother missing, Antonia must race against the clock to uncover a sinister secret and prevent history from repeating itself. Antonia has a complicated relationship with the past. After being found as a child in the rubble of a bombed-out apartment in Sarajevo, she and her brother Paul were taken in by the Kings, a family of contractors in the small Midwestern town of Thebes, Minnesota. Eager to escape the stereotype of adopted outsider, Antonia trades small-town Minnesota for a high-powered legal career. But it isn't long before her brother's mysterious disappearance pulls her back home. There, over the course of a single day, Antonia navigates the serpentine bureaucracy of her small town's justice system, unearthing salacious characters from the past, along with decades of secrets and lies, leading to explosive revelations about her adoptive family, and the sinister truth behind her biological mother's death that will alter the course of her life and change her definition of home forever. Informed by timely issues of immigration, capitalism, and justice, yet timeless in its themes of love, identity, and competing loyalties. The Dig is a portrait of a woman at odds with her history, who is forced to choose between her own ambitions and her love for and loyalty to her idealistic brother. So it sounds like this is told over the course of one day. That is a lot to cover in the course of one day. It says there, over the course of a single day, Antonia navigates the serpentine bureaucracy. So that would be amazing if they tell this whole story over the course of a single day. But the plot sounds riveting to me. These two adopted young people coming to the Midwest, and then how she has to navigate her brother's disappearance. So I'm eager to check that one out. There are, let's see, I think 2 more on my list, if that is correct. Yes, 2 more on my list. Hang in there with me. The next one is called The Gospel of Orla by Jogan Walls. This one's going to be published March 7th. It's by 7 Stories Press, and it's 224 pages, so not too long. This one is described as a stunning debut novel from the Northern Irish poet Jogan Walls. The Gospel of Orla is the coming-of-age story of a young girl, Orla, and the man she meets who has an astonishing and unique ability. It is also a road novel that takes us across the north of England after the two flee Orla's village together. Here the mysteries of faith charge full bore into the vagaries of contemporary moors. A humorous, wise, deeply human, and sometimes breathtaking work of lyrical fiction. A melancholic, funny, and magical coming-of-age story, The Gospel of Orla is glorious, wise, and totally weird. I loved it. From Annie Hartnett, author of Unlikely Animals. The Gospel of Orla is an astonishing feat of characterization and storytelling. The prose is both earthy and sparkling, and the story, equal parts bravado and vulnerability, is told with both wit and tenderness. Everyone should read this. And that's from Jen Ashworth, author of Ghosted. The Gospel of Orla is written with immense control and precision so that the voice of the protagonist emerges as alive, individual, and memorable. Jogan Walls manages to make every single emotion Orla feels, every thought, response, and action utterly convincing and fresh and original. And that quote is from Colm Tobin, author of The Magician. So that is The Gospel of Orla by Jogan Wells. I think it's interesting that he's a poet and writing this book. I also think that I will be sucked into anything that's described as a coming-of-age novel. I love a good coming-of-age novel. So interested to read about Orla and this man that she meets. It's also a road novel, which I also love. So, we've talked a little bit about my Thelma and Louise penchant. So interesting to read this. Lots of quotes from lots of amazing writers. So we shall see. I hope it lives up to the promise here. And here's the last one for today. The last book that I am looking forward to that is going to be released in the month of March is called The God of Endings by Jacqueline Holland. And you have to look at this cover. So it looks like it's a portrait of either a young man or a young woman, I can't tell. And there's a keyhole in the middle of it where it says a novel. And then there's a building in there. So a lot of things going on in this picture, and I'll be interested to see where they come into play with the story. So The God of Endings is coming out by Jacqueline Holland, is coming out March 7th, 2023 by Flatiron Books, and it is a big chunker. It's 480 pages. Here we go. This is what I know about the last one I want to talk about today. By turns suspenseful and enchanting, this breathtaking first novel weaves a story of love, family, history, and myth as seen through the eyes of one immortal woman. Colette Lessange is a lonely artist who heads an elite fine art school for children in upstate New York. Her youthful beauty masks the dark truth of her life. She has endured centuries of turmoil and heartache in the wake of her grandfather's long ago decision to make her immortal like himself. Now, in 1984, Colette finds her life upended by the arrival of a gifted child from a troubled home, the return of a stalking presence from her past, and her own mysteriously growing hunger. Combining brilliant prose with breathtaking suspense, The God of Endings serves as a larger exploration of the human condition in all its complexity, asking us the most fundamental question: is life in this world a gift or a curse? So I did not expect, in the middle of this, story set in 1984, for her to have endured centuries of turmoil in the wake of her grandfather's decision to make her immortal like himself. That was the last thing I was expecting. So I did not expect this to be fantasy or, fantastical realism. We'll see. Realistic fantasy. But I think that's an amazing premise. She is working at this fine arts school for children. She comes into this gifted child that she's trying to help, and she is also immortal. So what is that going to mean to the story? I can't wait to find out. So those are the 15 additional books, in addition to the 11 that I did on the previous video, that I am excited about in the month of March. You can't really argue with me. I mean, they all sound like great books. There were lists and lists of additional ones, but these were the 26 that I just couldn't live without. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you were able to stick with me till the end and hear all of the books that I wanted to talk about. It has been a great time for me being able to talk to you about these books. I look forward to coming back with the Tournament of Books that starts on March 8th. And I also have a couple of reviews that I want to do for books that I have finished just recently. So if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. It helps me a great deal and allows me to come back and create more videos and have more opportunities to talk to you. So I hope you have a great week, and I hope you really enjoyed being with me today. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks.